Hello, runners, and welcome to Funny Running Stories. My name is Martise Moore. I'm the Run Faster coach, and I could certainly use a laugh these days. I don't know about you, and that's why I'm so excited to introduce Liz Miele, and she's going to tell us one of her funniest running stories. Liz is actually in New York City, and how long have you been running, Liz?
I started in like a casual sense in like high school. Like I was a gymnast until I was 14, and then I needed something. I now know I needed something because I was like anxious, and it's a way that I kind of treat my anxiety. So I signed up for track thinking because I would run really fast to do the vault that I was a sprinter, and I was not. I was the worst on the team. I was always last. And then when I went to college, I signed up for like, I went to the new school, which is like not a athletic school. I mean, we're a bunch of kids that read books and write books. But there was like a marathon team, and I didn't even know what that meant. I just thought it was like a long race. I had no idea that a marathon was like 26.2 miles. That's what it always is. I was like, oh, I'm going to do a long race. And I signed up for this club, and I ended up doing like charity to sign up for the marathon. And it wasn't until like weeks in that I learned how long it was and how embarrassing unprepared I was. So I guess we'll say like seriously running since I was like 19. I'm 35 now. I don't do math, so
Okay.
You can figure that out.
We won't do the math either. How about that?
I've been running it consistently, but not well, for at least 15 years.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. So tell us your funniest running story.
I don't even know if it's funny as much as it's just like I feel stupid.
Okay.
So I started running marathons. Like I said, when I was 19, I did the New York City Marathon. It took me over 6 hours. I always tell people like they were like rolling up the signs as I was finishing, like truly extremely slow. So the New York Times, I think they still do this. They print every single runner. And my uncle was like looking for my name, and I was so slow that I was like the back of the page. Like I was like, but like truly so, but I was still hooked. Like I wasn't great at it. I was slow, but I was clearly hooked. So I started running at least one marathon a year. And at some points I got up to like 2 or 3 marathons. And I think maybe like 3 years in. So let's say I'm like 21, 22. My little brother, who's now 25, but at the time I think he was like 14, 15 years old. He wanted to run a marathon. So we signed up for, I think, the Cape May Marathon in New Jersey at the end of March. And I remember my mom was like, it's going to be really cold. I was like, Mom, it's springtime. Mom, it's springtime. You're crazy. Like, I literally was like, what does my mom know? She's only been on this earth like 30 years longer than me.
Right.
But I was like, Mom, it's springtime. I've never been fast. I've never been good at this, but I had like a whole plan. This was gonna be my brother's first marathon. I know he's faster than me. He's also like a young guy. So we had a plan that he didn't have a phone. My brother's always just been like anti-phones, anti-social media, but he didn't have a phone. So the whole thing was he had to call me. I think he had like a flip phone. I was like, he had to call me when he hit the half mile mark, like the half marathon mark. And then he had to call me and like stay at like, there was like, I'm doing a really bad job of telling the story, but like we ran to the finish line, and then we would have to get on a bus, and the bus would take us back to the start line where everybody's car was. So I knew he was going to finish at least an hour before me. So I was like, find a hotel and just hang out in the lobby so you're not cold.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're making this whole plan, and it starts snowing. It starts snowing, and I'm just like freezing. And also, this is Cape May, so we're by the water. So I'm so ill prepared for this. Like, I'm ill prepared for this marathon. I'm ill prepared for the cold. And then I also, I'm an older sister. I feel like I have to be somewhat fast. I can't leave my brother for 3 hours in the cold, and I don't know if he's gonna find a shelter. Like, I'm just kind of
no
in my
pressure.
Yeah. So keep in mind, he calls me like maybe an hour in, like he takes off an hour in, he calls me, and I was like, if you fucking already hit 13 miles, I'm going to be so mad at you. And he was like, no. He's like, I haven't, but I went out too fast. I didn't pace myself, and I ran like the fastest, you know, whatever I've ever run, but I'm burnt out. Like, I think I don't know if I have anything else. And I was like, dude, it was like, so now I'm like telling him, I'm like, stay on this side. If I have to pick you up and like drag you to the finish line, like stay on this. So now I'm like being a medic to my brother in the future, because it's gonna be like an hour. And he's like, no, I think I can finish, but I was so fast, but then I was too fast. So then I start running and I'm freezing. Like I legit, like I had the gloves, I had everything on, but like I'm not, you know how it is. You usually start to get warmer.
Right.
I never get warm. My face hurts. My gloves aren't even warm enough. I'm trying to run with my hoodie on and my hands in my hoodie. And at some point I have to go to the bathroom. So I go to a porta potty and I'm like, my hands aren't working. Like they're so cool. Like I'm like using them. Like they're no longer fingers. Like they're just like little, like waddly, like nubs. And I'm like trying to open the door with it, and then I like can't get my underwear off because I refuse to take off my gloves, and my hands are freezing. So this, like, you know how you're just like supposed to pee and go? It is taking like 10 minutes. I'm not joking. My thighs are freezing. I like can't get my underwear off. You know, you have to hover, God forbid you touch anything. Then you have to do all the other stuff, and my hands aren't working. Then I was like, it's kind of nice to be indoors, and I'm like trying to warm up. It was like, my story is more about the mental anguish. And the whole time I have my mother in the back of my head being like, it's going to be too cold. I'm like, she doesn't know. And here I am. I'm like, this is the worst marathon. This is the worst experience I've ever had. And I chose it.
Right.
And so,
what month was it?
It was March. It was the end of March. It was March 28th. This was probably, I used to have my little bibs on my wall and I took them down. I want to say this was like 6 years ago. Well, yeah, I could do the math on my brother. I guess it's more like he's 25. It's kind of 10 years ago. That's crazy. Time goes really fast. So this is like 10 years ago then. And I just was like mentally ill-prepared, physically unprepared. And then I just don't do well in the cold. And I just thought my body would warm up, and it never warmed up. And I ended up being faster, both because I was worried about my brother, but then I was too cold. You know, like sometimes I would like pace myself by walking for like maybe 10 seconds, but I would never walk because I was so cold and I couldn't figure out how to, and like they're giving you Gatorade and I was like, it's cold. I don't want this. I want hot chocolate.
Right?
Like, so it's like not a full story, but it's just literally about how everything that could like almost go wrong in a marathon went wrong. And then I like picked up my brother. And then the weirdest part about this story is I had a show I had to do in New Jersey. So I couldn't even dilly dally in the sense that like I had somewhere to be. So like we get on this bus, I get there, I like throw my brother home. I jump in the shower. My parents are like, how was the marathon? I was like, it was horrible. And then I had to like quickly shower as fast as I can, speed to the show. And I don't know if I ever like, I think the last time I like took a breath and like was truly warm was like after the show. It was just one of those chaotic, dumb Liz ideas that I was like, why did I do that? What was the point of that, Liz?
Oh my goodness, that was hilarious. Did you PR?
No.
Okay.
You would think. I bet you if it didn't take me 10 minutes to pee, I really think I could have had a good experience. My best marathon was the second one I ever did. No, the third one I ever did. I think I was 21 years old, and I was so fast that my mom was like tracking me, and she's like, did you cheat? And I was like, maybe I did cheat. Like I knocked like 2 hours off my time.
Wow.
And it's still the best I've ever done. Yeah. And what it was, now looking back, what it was is I was running, I was still in college, and I was running with this group. And I was, again, always the slowest, but I was trying to keep up with them. Sure. And I never was like into like watches or like, you know, heart rate and stuff like that. I would just kind of guess that I was running 6 miles, or I would just guess that I was doing, you know, I just look at a map and just kind of guess. And I must have accidentally got faster from just years of trying to catch up with these people, that I ended up running it faster. But like literally, like my mom was like, did you cheat? Like I missed you because you were so fast. And I was like, I don't think I cheated. And then I'm like looking at my watch and I'm like, oh man, I was like consistent with 10-minute miles. And like, it was just, I think it was just like a little bit, I was angry that day. And then I just accidentally trained well.
So accidentally trained well. I love it. So has your brother ever run a marathon again? Or was that too traumatic for him?
I think he did like one or two more. My
Mm-hmm.
brother's a little crazy. I think he ran either a half marathon or a full marathon on a treadmill because it got like snowed out once or it got
Mm,
rained. Something happened where it got canceled and he
mm,
had already trained and he
yeah.
didn't want to not do it. So he just did it on a treadmill. Like that's kind of how my baby brother is. Um, Now he just kind of does enough to like, he's kind of funny. He's in law school right now,
Mm-hmm.
but this is such a luxury of boys. He will gain some weight and not
Mm-hmm.
fit into his pants and
Yeah.
it'll frustrate him.
Uh-huh.
So he'll just diet a little bit and go for a run for like 2 weeks and it'll
Uh-huh.
all come off. And I'd be like,
Uh-huh.
must be fucking nice. Like it must be, you know what I think of like everything every woman has done since they were like 14, where it's like, okay, I'm not going to eat any sugar and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
get rid of carbs and I'm going to run 6 miles every day. And I'm not going to look at cake. And they're like, I gained weight. I don't even know how that's possible. I gained weight. And my brother,
Muscle, you gain muscle.
yeah, I gained frustration most of the time. But my brother, like, I remember my parents when he first went off to college. He's the youngest of five. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
second oldest of five.
Okay.
So he's beloved. Like he's the
Mm-hmm.
favorite.
Yeah.
A lot of resentment in that
I'm ready to
statement.
say I can't tell.
Yeah, just like must be nice. But you know, he was the baby, he's the last one to go to college. And so my parents show love with like just sending like little gifts, like nothing real. Like my mom will send me deodorant and I'll be like, she
Mm-hmm.
thought of me.
Mm-hmm.
But like they were sending him candy. And so my brother called and he was like, hey, you guys got to stop sending me candy. I'm gaining too much weight and I can't fit into my shirts.
Uh-huh.
And then 2 weeks later, he's like, oh, I just started running again and I lost it. You can send me candy. And I was like, I can't with this kid. I was like, I don't like these stories.
He's young yet, so
Oh
it'll
yeah.
catch
I
up.
can't wait until he hits 35. You'll come to me for some advice.
Nice, nice. So what's your running life look like nowadays?
It's really bad. It's bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird. Like weirdly enough, and I've learned this about myself almost my entire life as somebody that's a freelancer, when
Mm-hmm.
I'm busy, I figure out how to fit in running and exercise. When
Yeah.
I'm not busy, the day just like, I just keep making excuses. Well, I'll do it
Right.
at 2. I'll do it at 5. You know, I'll do it tomorrow. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing that makes it necessary to cram in. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore the day slips away and I never get it done. So in the beginning of the pandemic, you know, I was a little bit like, ugh. Like I was almost just like, we were all just kind of confused and didn't know what to do. So I was just like, well, I got to make sure. Like at first I was like not leaving the house because they were like, it's not safe.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since we were the epicenter.
Yeah.
And then it started to be like, my back hurts because I'm barely leaving the house and
Yeah.
I'm like truly in pain. So I
Mm-hmm.
started running again and I started running a lot. Like every time I went for a run, I was running 5 or 6 miles and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really in that place. I was like maybe running a couple of times a week, 3 to 4 miles, but like not really pushing myself. And so next thing I know, I'm like really pushing myself and nobody's on the streets, which is kind of cool. Like
Mm-hmm.
now my ex-boyfriend, should let you know how the pandemic's going. But my boyfriend at the time
Oh.
lived not too far from the Brooklyn Bridge. So I'd run
Mm-hmm.
to the Brooklyn Bridge. I would run over the Brooklyn Bridge. Nobody's on it. It's
Wow.
gorgeous. It's like,
Yeah.
there's all this room. It's like, it's a little bit like the zombie apocalypse, but in a fun way.
Yeah.
And it was just something that I never really enjoyed because there's too many people and people in the way. So
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, this is such a once in a lifetime experience for a New Yorker. I'm going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
So I was running across the bridge like a couple times a week, which full circle for me was about 6 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started, we started to be able to do outdoor shows and I started running to my shows. Now keep in mind, when I normally do comedy, it's my work day. So I make sure I do everything before I leave the house. But like, there's something about outdoor comedy that was so like, people are wearing shorts. I would never wear shorts on stage. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm using notes because we're not as, put together as we used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So there was such a casualness to the fact that we no longer had a home and comedy was kind of dead and we were these kind of vagabonds
Uh-huh.
that I started running. Like we would have shows in Prospect Park and I'm about 3/4 of a mile, that I started like biking and running to the park and, wearing my leggings and being
Uh-huh.
sweaty and gross. And so I started to pick up again. And then that died when the it got cold again, and then I don't like the cold, and I'm down to like, I went to like not running for several weeks and like yelling at myself. To my friend did this thing where you have to run a mile every day from Thanksgiving to January 1st. So now I'm running at least 1 mile every day, and some days it is just 1 mile. But like today is really cold and gross, and I'm being a baby, and so my compromise was I just ran up and down my 6 floors in my apartment building. And it seemed like a good idea until the 4th time, and then my legs started shaking. And I was bare, and like I'm wearing a mask because I'm also indoors. And I'm not okay right now because I'm not in like run upstairs 12 times kind of shape. But I did it. I was like, ooh, I'd rather just run a mile outside. I just made myself a painful mile. But I'm in a place where I'm trying to get back into it because not having work, weirdly enough, has made me lose discipline in all areas, if that makes sense.
No, it absolutely makes sense. I think we all can relate to that. My mileage has definitely gone down this year, and that's part of the reason I wanted to do this podcast, is because, I mean, as a community, we're so used to certain habits that kind of define who we are, or how our day goes, or how our year goes. And that the fact that we can't do it the way we usually do it. I mean, luckily we've been always been able to run this whole time, like, you know, alone, but it's completely relatable that I could totally relate to what you were saying in terms of, you know, before I would always get it in just because I would just hurry up and fit it in. But now, like, I have every excuse in the book, like, I'll do it later, or after this show goes off, or something like that. So, whereas before it was definitely part of my routine. So I completely get it.
There's no routine. I think that's a great way of saying it, is like, there's no routine. Therefore I just don't, I've always been a really disciplined person, and this has kind of thrown who I am and how I structure my day, and even how I see myself completely. It just, everything's kind of just gone out the door. Yeah.
So that's like, for me, I was like, ooh, I don't like who I'm becoming. Let me think of something else to do.
I'm eating a lot of cookie dough. Not even making the cookies, just eating cookie dough.
So I actually picked up kayaking. It's kind of like a new hobby. It's like, what can I do by myself that would be like this exercise that'd be fun? So like, this has definitely something for the books.
For sure.
We've been talking about for years. But thank you so much for telling us your story. That was pretty freaking funny, actually. I didn't tell everybody that Liz is a comedian and a runner. So we were very privileged to have her. This is going to be a tough act to follow. But tell us where we can follow you on Instagram, Liz.
Everything is at Liz Miele, Miele. And I have 2 free specials on YouTube if you want to check out some of my work, which is just YouTube, I think /Liz Miele. So. Okay,
awesome. Yeah, I need to check that out too. Okay, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with your running journey. We are all right there with you. So, and we'll be following you for more inspiration and smiles and laugh. And I guess we'll see you later.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Bye. Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, thank you.